Hi, I'm Dave McKee. We're at the Federation of Fly Fishers. I'm going to tie the Longhorn Beetle, which is a large terrestrial pattern that was designed by the guys up at Blue Ribbon Flies in West Yellowstone. I believe primarily as a cutthroat fly for Yellowstone Park, but I have found, although it's oversized, I don't see many beetles that are as big as this is, that it has been very effective just as a general attractor pattern in the summertime on the Yellowstone and Madison and some other places as well. The hook that I'm going to use for this is the Dairiki 280. It's a size 10. You could probably try to tie it a size smaller. I don't think it would be necessary to go bigger. But it's a curved shank hook with the eye down, and it seems like it is handy to have a down eye rather than the straight eye on this fly, just for the way it's tied. I'm going to use a black 6/0 thread, and the first thing I'm going to do is start this right at the front of the hook, which is kind of an odd place to start it. I usually start my thread at the back of the hook, but the reason for doing so is that we're going to have some antennas on this, which I'm going to make out of brown crystal flash. So I'm going to go ahead and take 2 strands of this, trim them off. They're longer than I need them to be, but they're easy to work with this way. And I'm going to simply tie these in directly behind the eye of the hook and go ahead and trim them off. Okay, I've put them in first because they're really difficult to put in at the end. And whether or not they're necessary to catch fish is debatable, but they look pretty cool on there, so I think it's worth having them. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to move it towards the back of the hook. Let it hang about even with the barb of the hook once again. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do, this is a foam beetle, and the foam that I use on this is basically, they call them tiger strips. They're 3 pieces of foam that have been glued together. Plain black foam would work fine, but having this strip of green in the middle does make the fly a little bit more visible. The fish cannot see that, so it's totally up to you whether you use that or not. What I'm going to do is tie this on right at the back of the hook. Try to get a couple wraps on there. It's a little bit bulky. And just slowly tie it down. Try to do 1 or 2 wraps and pull it tight. Your thread will likely break. And I'm going to make sure that I tie this further down around the bend of the hook than would seem right. It ends up, if you tie it a little bit shorter further up the hook shank, then your beetle shell is going to be a little bit smaller than you'd like it. Okay, so now I've got the foam tied in. The next step is for the underbody, which is Longhorn dubbing, which is a color of dubbing. I believe it's a Zelon dubbing that the guys up in Blue Ribbon make themselves. But a peacock color dubbing, even peacock herl, would probably work as a substitute. Okay, so I'm going to get some of that, and I'm going to pull down my thread and simply dub a loose body of the peacock on there. I'm going to be fairly liberal with it. It's not the peacock, I'm sorry, the Longhorn dubbing. Now I'm going to wrap this forward. And we're going to go about halfway up the hook shank, almost halfway, maybe just a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pull the foam over top and just do a few wraps right like so. Okay, so now we've done the first part of our beetle. The next step is that I'm going to take some bleached deer hair and I'm going to tie that in right on top, which is going to make an indicator. Once again, this is purely for us, just like this green stripe in the foam. This is a visual aid for us to help see the fly out there in the water. The problem with a lot of beetles is, and ants, they work extremely well, but so many of them are impossible to see on the water. They're not that much fun to fish. So I've taken my small bunch of bleached deer hair. I'm going to put them in my stacker and get the tips evened up. Okay, now I've got the tips all evened up on here, and I'm going to simply tie them right on top. The tips probably I'm putting them about 3/4 of the way down the back of that beetle there. I'm going to go ahead and tie them on there. And while I'm still holding the tips in place, I'm going to go in and trim the butt ends. Okay, so now I have the deer hair tied in on top. This helps this fly float, and once again helps us to see it. Now I'm going to add some legs. I've got this whole bunch of legs here. I'm going to simply, these are medium-sized, round, black rubber legs. I'm going to cut 2 of them off of here. The first one I'm going to tie, these are probably 1 inch long. Longer than I need them, but I'll trim them when I'm done. Tie one on my side of the fly, and then one on the far side of the fly. Okay, now I'm going to pick everything up, get the legs out of the way, the foam out of the way. And I'm going to get another bunch of the dubbing. I won't use quite as much on this front part as I did on the back because the section isn't quite as long. So I have the dubbing on the thread here. I'm going to make sure I pack it back under that foam so there's not a gap in there. And I want to fill in this front part. I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay, now the body has been dubbed there. I'm going to pull these legs out of the way and pull the foam forward. Tie it down. Okay, at that point, I'm going to pull the foam back a little bit and trim it, making sure that I do not trim off my antennas. And you can see at this point, it would be very difficult to tie those in, the antennas in, because there's almost no room left. Okay, at this point, I just need to whip finish the fly. If I can get it around all the legs and the antennas. And we're almost there. I'm going to trim the legs, make them a little bit shorter. So they're each probably, maybe a 1/2 inch long. And there we have it, the Longhorn Beetle. Fairly ridiculous looking in the scheme of beetles, but it actually does work extremely well.